Too innocent? Too private? Too arranged? This is how early photography framed women.
Opening sequence, a permission to look.
A mirror, a curtain, a stocking, a chair placed beside the body. At first, these objects look ordinary. They belong to a room, a dressing table, a studio, a stage. But in early photography, they often did something more precise. They gave the viewer permission to look. The photograph did not have to say, "Look at this body." It could say, "Look at this scene." A woman dressing, a woman turning toward a mirror, a woman holding a fan, a veil, a flower, a piece of fabric. The object softens the exposure. The pose gives the body a reason to be seen, and desire enters the image through that reason.
Chapter 1. The body at the edge of clothing.
These photographs rarely depend on complete nakedness. Their force comes from the edge of a sleeve, the edge of a slip, the lifted hem, the visible shoulder, the line where fabric stops and skin begins. The body is not simply revealed, it is approached. That is why clothing matters so much here. Clothing does not only hide the body, it can also point to it. A corset draws attention to the waist. A stocking draws attention to the leg. A loosened strap draws attention to the shoulder. The image works because it gives less than everything. It creates a delay. The viewer is held at the threshold, not outside the scene, but not fully inside it either. The body is almost available. And that almost is the structure of the photograph.
Chapter 2. Dressing gives the image a story.
The act of dressing is one of the oldest excuses for intimacy. A woman adjusts a stocking, tightens a corset, lifts a skirt, turns away from the camera, but not completely. The gesture makes the image seem accidental, as if the camera has entered a private moment, as if the body is visible only because something practical is happening. But the photograph is not accidental. The dressing scene gives the pose a story. It lets the viewer see more because the body appears to be occupied with something else. This is the ambiguity that makes these images powerful. Is she getting dressed? Is she undressing? Is this preparation for public appearance or a retreat into privacy? The photograph does not settle the question. It keeps both directions alive.
Chapter 3. The mirror invents privacy.
The mirror changes everything. It creates a second image inside the first. A woman looks at herself, or seems to. The viewer watches that act of looking. The mirror makes the scene feel private. It suggests a bedroom, a dressing room, a moment before the outside world returns. But in the studio, privacy is not discovered. It is built. The mirror is a device. It doubles the body. It opens another angle. It gives the viewer a softer way to look. We are not only looking at a woman, we are looking at a woman arranged as if she were looking at herself. That small difference matters. Direct looking can feel too exposed. The mirror makes the exposure seem mediated, domestic, almost innocent. But the camera is still there. The privacy is staged for it.
Chapter 4. The prop gives desire a task.
A fan opens. A curtain falls. A flower is held against the body. A chair supports the pose. A veil, a parasol, a whip, a piece of fabric. Each object gives the body something to do. The prop is not just decoration. It tells the hand where to rest. It tells the shoulder how to turn. It tells the viewer where to look. Without the prop, the image might become too direct. With the prop, desire becomes composition. The body is still central, but it is no longer alone. It belongs to an arrangement, furniture, fabric, gesture, surface, skin. This is why so many of these photographs feel theatrical. They are not simply showing a person, they are staging an encounter. The viewer does not just receive the body, the viewer reads the scene that permits the body to appear.
Chapter 5. Costume changes what can be seen.
Costume gives the image another kind of permission. The dancer, the actress, the allegorical figure, the exoticized fantasy, the studio muse. Each role changes the rules. A body in costume is not presented as ordinary exposure. It belongs to performance. That makes visibility easier to justify. More skin can appear because the image is no longer simply a woman in a room. It is theater. It is fantasy. It is a role made printable. But costume does not remove desire. It redirects it. The viewer is invited to look at the character, and through the character, at the body. This is one of the oldest strategies of visual culture. The role protects the image, and at the same time, it intensifies the image.
Chapter 6. The gaze knows the camera.
Many of these photographs depend on a delicate balance. The body is arranged for looking, but the face often does something more. A smile, a sideways glance, a raised eyebrow, a direct look into the lens. We should be careful. The photograph cannot tell us what this woman thought. It cannot give us her inner life. But it can stage awareness. It can make the subject appear as if she understands the game of visibility, not simply exposed, not simply passive, but posed inside a commercial image that knows exactly what it is doing. This is where these photographs become difficult. They are not innocent documents. They are not pure freedom either. They belong to studios, publishers, markets, collectors, viewers. They were arranged, reproduced, circulated, and sold. But within that system, the gaze still matters, because the image often works by making the viewer feel seen in return.
Closing. The image gives permission.
These photographs are not simply about bodies. They are about the permissions that make bodies visible. A mirror gives permission. A curtain gives permission. A costume gives permission. A stocking, a chair, a fan, a printed postcard. Each one softens the act of looking. They make desire appear indirect, composed, civilized, theatrical. But the charge remains. The body is brought close, then held back. The viewer is invited nearer, but never allowed to arrive completely. That is why the half-seen body mattered so much to early photography. It could promise intimacy without becoming simple exposure. It could stage privacy without being private. It could turn looking into an event with rules. And those rules are still visible now in the smallest details. The lifted fabric, the object in the hand, the glance toward the lens, the space between what is shown and what is withheld. This is not just desire in an old photograph. It is the photograph giving desire permission to be seen.
Subscribe to Reading Frames for more archival photographs and visual essays.